Hello there, and welcome back to the Sleepy Universe channel. I hope you are comfortably settled. The day is behind you now. All the tasks, all the conversations, all the noise, they are finished. Now is the time to turn your attention inward to find that quiet center within yourself. Let your body sink into the mattress. Let your breathing slow down, matching the steady rhythm of the night. Tonight, we are going to travel back in time, further back than the dinosaurs, further back than the first oceans. We are going to the very beginning of our story. We are going to witness the birth of the earth. It is a story of fire and patience, a story of how a cloud of floating dust transformed into the blue marble we call home. It is a slow, majestic process of gathering, of cooling, and of settling. So, let go of the present moment. We are drifting back 4.5 billion years to a time before the Earth had a name. The solar nebula. Before there was an Earth, there was a cloud. Imagine a vast sprawling nebula of gas and dust floating in the cold silence of space. It was dark, composed mostly of hydrogen and helium, sprinkled with the microscopic ashes of dead stars, ice crystals, grains of carbon, flecks of iron. This was the raw material of our world. For millions of years, this cloud drifted peacefully, turning slowly like a great wheel in the dark. It was a cold, quiet nursery, waiting for the spark of life, the ignition of the sun. In the center of this cloud, gravity began to pull the gas together. It squeezed tighter and tighter until the pressure became unbearable. And then, light. The sun ignited a nuclear fire, began to burn in the heart of the nebula. A shock wave of energy rippled outward, pushing the remaining dust and gas into a flat, spinning disk. This was the protoplanetary disk. It was a halo of potential surrounding the infant star. From this distance, our future home was nothing more than a ring of dust, glittering in the pale light of the new sun. Static cling. The birth of the planet did not start with a crash. It started with a whisper. In the cold vacuum of the disk, tiny grains of dust bumped into each other. They didn't smash. They stuck, held together by static electricity, the same force that makes a balloon stick to your hair. These dust motes clung to one another. They formed tiny clumps, then fluffy balls of dust, then pebbles. It was a gentle accumulation. The universe was knitting itself together, particle by particle, in the silence of space. The snow line. Our region of the disk was hot, close to the young sun. Only rock and metal could survive here. Further out, beyond the snow line, it was cold enough for ice to form. That is where the giants like Jupiter would grow. But here, in the inner solar system, the building blocks were harder. Iron, silicate, magnesium. The Earth began as a collection of dry, rocky seeds. There was no water yet, no atmosphere, just billions of rocky fragments tumbling in orbit, waiting to join the dance. The planetesimals. Over thousands of years, the pebbles grew into boulders, and the boulders grew into mountains. These were the planetesimals, kilometer-wide asteroids drifting through the disk. Now, gravity took over. The larger rocks began to attract the smaller ones. They swept up the dust in their path. It was a time of cleaning. The chaotic cloud was being organized into distinct lanes. The mess was gathering into spheres. The silent collisions. As these rocky worlds grew, they began to collide. But in the vastness of space, these collisions happened in silence. A rock the size of a city would drift toward a rock the size of a country. Gravity would pull them together. They would merge, melting from the heat of the impact, fusing into a single, larger body. It was a violent process, but from a distance, it looked like a slow, glowing ballet. The pieces of the puzzle were snapping together. The Earth was growing, absorbing its neighbors, becoming heavy, becoming real. The heat of birth. With every collision, energy was released. The growing planet became hot. The rock wasn't solid anymore. It was molten. The Earth became a sphere of magma. Imagine a ball of glowing orange liquid floating in the black void. There were no continents, no oceans, just a roiling, bubbling sea of lava. It was a world of fire, but it was not chaotic. It was differentiating. It was sorting itself out. The iron rain. Inside this molten sphere, something incredible was happening. The heavy elements, iron and nickel, began to sink. Like stones dropping through water, droplets of molten iron fell toward the center of the planet. They gathered in the core. This was the iron catastrophe. It sounds dramatic, but it was the defining moment of Earth's structure. The planet developed a heart, a dense, heavy iron core that would one day generate a magnetic field to protect all life. The lighter rocks floated to the top to become the mantle, and Shea, crust. The Earth was organizing itself from the inside out. A day was 6 hours. This young, molten Earth was spinning incredibly fast. A day lasted only about 6 hours. The sun would rise and set in a blur. The centrifugal force bulged the planet at the equator. It was a dizzying, frantic world, spinning alone in the dark. But there was no one there to feel the dizziness. There was only the physics of angular momentum, winding the planet up like a top. The first crust. As the bombardment of rock slowed down, the surface began to cool. The bright orange glow started to fade to a dull red, and then to gray. Patches of solid rock began to form on the surface of the magma ocean. These were the first rafts of crust. They were thin and fragile, breaking apart and sinking back into the fire, only to form again. It was the earth trying to build a skin. It was a fragile shell forming over a heart of fire. The loneliness. At this point, the earth was alone. It had no moon. It was a solitary traveler on a slightly different orbit than it has today. It wobbled as it spun. The night sky was filled with debris, a constant meteor shower of leftover building blocks. But the main work was done. The dust had become a world. The cloud had become a sphere. The calm before the storm. For a moment in geological time, things settled. The planet glowed softly in the vacuum. It was a hellscape of heat, yes, but it was a stable one. It was waiting for the final catastrophic event that would define its future. It was waiting for a visitor from the dark. You are made of this. As you drift into sleep, remember, the atoms in your body were there. The iron in your blood was sinking into that molten core. The calcium in your bones was floating in that magma ocean. You are not separate from this ancient earth. You are a piece of it that has cooled down, woken up, and learned to dream, drifting toward impact. We leave the young, glowing earth spinning in the dark. It is finished with the first stage of its life. It has gathered itself, but it is not yet complete. A shadow is approaching from the depths of space. Another planet, the size of Mars, is on a collision course. In the next chapter, we will witness the creation of the moon. I apologize. I understood your request to switch to English, starting from Chapter 3, but that left Chapter 2, the moon, only in Russian. You need the complete story in one language. Here is the English version of Chapter 2, so you have the full sequence. Script: The Birth of Earth. Chapter 2, Thea, The Birth of the Moon. Transition. We return to the young Earth. It has been about 100 million years since it formed. The surface is still hot, a dark crust of hardened lava that constantly cracks and sinks back into the magma below. The planet is spinning fast, wobbling on its axis, unstable and alone in the dark. But deep in space, sharing the same orbit, a shadow is moving. Astronomers call it Thea. It is a planet the size of Mars, and it is heading straight for us. The approach of the shadow. Imagine standing on the surface of the ancient Earth. There is no blue sky, only the blackness of space. In that darkness, a star begins to grow brighter. It expands. First, it is a point of light, then a small disk, and finally, a massive sphere blocking out the stars. Thea approaches not with malice, but with the inevitability of gravity. It is a silent, cosmic ballet of two worlds drawn too close together. The Great Collision. Contact. It wasn't like a rock hitting a rock. Because both planets were still partially molten, it was more like two drops of water crashing into each other. Thea struck the Earth at a glancing angle. The impact was so powerful that the Earth's crust melted instantly. Thea was completely destroyed. Its heavy iron core sank, merging with the Earth's core, making our planet's heart heavier and stronger. But the rest of Thea, and a large part of Earth's outer layers, was blasted into space. The Ring of Fire. If you looked at Earth in that moment, you wouldn't recognize it. It was surrounded by a ring. But this was not a ring of ice like Saturn's. It was a ring of molten rock, lava, and vapor. Billions of tons of debris orbited the planet, glowing angry red in the night. The Earth had become a burning eye with a fiery halo. It was a scene of terrifying beauty. The second moon. In this chaos of debris, gravity began its quiet work again. The hot rocks bumped into each other and stuck. Inside the ring, a new sphere began to grow. It swept up the dust and the cooling magma. It grew with incredible speed. In just a few thousand years, a blink of an eye in cosmic time, the moon formed from the wreckage. Our eternal companion was born from fire and destruction, a giant in the sky. The newborn moon looked nothing like the one we see today. It was much closer, 15 times closer than it is now. If you looked up, the moon would have dominated the sky, a colossal, scarred sphere glowing with oceans of its own lava. It spun fast, and the Earth spun fast. It was a tight, dizzying waltz. The magma tides. Because the moon was so close, its gravity pulled on the Earth with immense power. Today, the moon pulls the water. Back then, it pulled the land. It raised waves of molten rock kilometers high. The surface of the Earth breathed, rising and falling under the weight of the satellite. This friction kept the planet hot, preventing it from freezing over too quickly in the cold vacuum, slowing down time. This dance began to change the Earth. Like a figure skater extending their arms to slow a spin, the interaction with the moon began to put the brakes on Earth's rotation. The day lengthened. From 6 hours, it stretched to 8, then 10. The moon began to slowly drift away, stealing the Earth's rotational energy. It moved to a higher orbit, becoming smaller and calmer in the sky. The stabilizing anchor, Thea's greatest gift, was stability. Before the impact, Earth wobbled chaotically. But the moon acted as an anchor. Its gravity fixed the tilt of Earth's axis at 23 degrees. Because of this, we have seasons: summer, autumn, winter, spring. This rhythm of life is only possible because of our satellite. The moon calmed the Earth, giving it a steady posture in the void, cooling down. Millions of years passed. The moon receded. The ring disappeared. Earth began to heal its wounds. The bright orange of the magma faded to dark basalt. A solid, permanent crust formed. Black, lifeless, and hot, but solid. The planet was transforming from a star-like ball into a world of stone. The double planet. We often forget how large our moon is compared to Earth. We are almost a double planet system. We are unique in the inner solar system. Mercury, Venus, Mars, none of them have such a partner. We dance in a pair, and this dance, which began with a catastrophe, became the foundation of our future peace. The view from the surface. Imagine a night on the ancient Earth. The sky is still black, the atmosphere thin. The stars do not twinkle, and rising over the horizon is a massive, glowing red moon. It is so close you can see the craters with your naked eye. It bathes the black cliffs in an eerie crimson light. The silence is absolute. Only the sound of cooling rock cracking beneath your feet. We are no longer alone. Earth now has a partner, someone to catch the asteroids, someone to light the path in the dark, someone to guide the tides. The story of Earth is no longer a solo performance. It is a duet. Thea did not die. She became part of us and part of our sky, preparing for the rain. The fire has done its work. The planet is built. The satellite is in place. Now, it is time for the next great transformation. Gases are escaping from the deep. Volcanoes are venting steam. The sky is getting heavy. Clouds are gathering. Clouds unlike anything the world has ever seen. We are standing on the brink of the great deluge. We leave the era of fire behind. The collision with Thea is over. The moon is moving away to a safer orbit. The Earth is no longer a ball of molten magma, but it is still a hostile, dark place. The surface is covered in a crust of black basalt, hot and jagged. But the biggest change is happening above the ground. The planet is breathing. Volcanoes are erupting everywhere, spewing not just lava, but massive clouds of gas. Carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and most importantly, steam. Billions of tons of water vapor are rising into the sky, wrapping the planet in a thick, heavy blanket. The earth is holding its breath, waiting to cool down. The heavy atmosphere, if you stood on the surface now, you would be crushed. The atmosphere is thick, dense, and suffocating. It is full of water vapor that wants to be liquid, but the ground is still too hot. The air is a sauna of planetary proportions. Giant walls of clouds pile up, kilometer after kilometer, hiding the stars and the sun. The world is wrapped in a gray, swirling twilight. It is a world of steam and shadow, humid and waiting. The cooling. Slowly, very slowly, the heat radiates out into space. The black crust thickens. The temperature drops. For eons, every time a drop of water tried to form, it would hit the hot air and flash back into steam. It was a cycle of frustration. But finally, a tipping point is reached. The upper atmosphere cools just enough. The steam begins to condense. The clouds can no longer hold their burden. The first drop. It begins with a single drop. High in the gray sky, a molecule of water bonds with a grain of dust. It grows heavy. It falls. It survives the heat of the air. It hits the black, warm rock with a tiny hiss. It evaporates instantly. But then comes another, and another. The ground is hissing as the water strikes it. The rocks are cooling. The hiss turns into a patter. The patter turns into a roar. The deluge begins. The skies open up. This is not a rainstorm like we know today. This is the great deluge. It is a rain that will not stop for days, or years, or centuries. It rains for millions of years. The water pours down from the heavens in a relentless, thundering sheet. It is a waterfall from the sky. The pent-up steam of the planet's formation is being released all at once. Lightning rips through the clouds, illuminating a world that is being washed clean. Filing the basins. The water runs over the black rocks. It flows into the cracks and crevices. It pools in the lowlands. At first they are just puddles, then lakes, then seas. The water is hot, nearly boiling, but it stays liquid. It covers the lava flows. It creates rushing rivers of dark, muddy water that carve the first channels into the Earth's crust. The sound of the planet changes. The silence of space is replaced by the roar of rushing water and the boom of thunder. The water from the stars. The volcanoes provided much of the water, but they had help. During this time, the Earth was also being bombarded by icy comets from the outer solar system. These dirty snowballs from deep space crashed into the atmosphere, vaporizing and adding their ice to the clouds. Half the water in your bathtub, half the water in your body, may have come from these alien visitors. The ocean is a mixture of Earth's own steam and the ice of the distant void, the global ocean. As the centuries pass, the water continues to rise. It swallows the volcanoes. It swallows the craters. It covers almost everything. The Earth transforms into a water world. There are no continents yet, no green forests, just a vast global ocean stretching from pole to pole, broken only by the peaks of massive underwater volcanoes. If you looked at Earth from space, it wouldn't be blue, it would be olive green. The water is rich in dissolved iron, turning the seas a deep, murky green under a heavy carbon dioxide sky. The pressure stabilizes as the water leaves the air and fills the oceans. The atmospheric pressure drops. The sky clears slightly, though it is still hazy and orange. The crushing weight of the atmosphere is transferred to the bottom of the sea. The planet is finding a new equilibrium. The chaos of the fire is being soothed by the weight of the water. A mirror for the moon. The rain finally stops. The clouds break. And for the first time, the surface of the Earth has a mirror. The giant nearby moon rises over the horizon, and its red reflection shimmers on the waves of the new global ocean. The tides are massive, sweeping around the planet without any continents to stop them. Giant waves race across the surface, mixing the chemicals, churning the water. The primordial soup. This ocean is not just water. It is a chemical broth. It is hot, salty, and toxic, but it is protected. The deep water shields the surface from the sun's radiation. Down in the darkness, near the volcanic vents, minerals are mixing. Carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen. The ingredients are swirling together in the warm currents. The stage is being set. The silence returns. The roar of the million-year storm fades. The only sound now is the wind moving over the endless waves and the rhythmic crashing of the tides. The planet is cool. It is wet. It is waiting. The fire has been buried deep beneath the waves. The Earth has become a blue-green marble, a lonely sphere of water orbiting the sun. Transition. We leave the endless ocean churning in the dark. The world is wet, but it is empty. There is nowhere to stand. But deep beneath the waves, the heat is still working. The crust is cracking. Something new is rising from the depths. Something harder than basalt. We are about to see the rise of the first land. We are drifting on the surface of the endless, olive-green ocean. For millions of years, this is all the Earth was. A water world. A planet of waves, storms, and dark, submerged volcanic chains. The crust beneath the ocean was made of basalt, black, heavy volcanic rock. It was dense. It wanted to sink. But deep beneath the waves, in the pressure cooker of the planet's interior, a new kind of alchemy began. The Earth was about to invent something new, something lighter, something that would refuse to sink. It was about to invent the land, the alchemy of the deep. Down in the darkness, water was seeping into cracks in the ocean floor. It mixed with the hot magma. When water meets molten basalt under extreme pressure, it changes the chemistry of the rock. It makes it silica rich. It creates a new type of stone, granite. This new rock was tough, crystalline, and most importantly, it was light. The floating rock. Granite is the cork of the geological world. It is less dense than the heavy basalt of the ocean floor, and much less dense than the mantle below. So, as this new rock formed, it did not sink. It rose. It floated on top of the magma like a raft on a pond. It began to pile up, layer upon layer, ballooning upward from the depths. It was the earth building a foundation that could withstand the constant pull of gravity. Breaking the surface. Imagine watching the ocean surface on a calm day billions of years ago. The water begins to foam. The sea floor rises. And then, for the first time in history, dry land breaks through the waves. It is not the black, jagged lava of a volcano that will erode in a few years. It is gray, speckled hard granite. It is permanent. The first island craton has been born. It is a small, lonely patch of gray in a world of green and blue. The proto-continents. These were not the continents we know today. No Africa, no America. They were proto-continents. Small, scattered land masses drifting on the mantle. Geologists call them by ancient names: Ur, Valbara, Keenorland. They were stark and barren. No moss, no grass, no soil. Just raw, naked rock standing defiant against the storms. They were the seeds of the continents, the first solid ground to feel the warmth of the sun. The sound of the shore. With the birth of land came a new sound. Before this, the ocean waves rolled endlessly around the globe, never breaking. Now, there were coastlines. For the first time, the earth heard the sound of surf. Waves crashing against cliffs. Pebbles rolling on a beach. The rhythm of the tides found a partner in the resistance of the land. It was the music of the boundary, the friction between the fluid and the solid. The shallows. The most important thing these islands created was not the land above the water, but the land just below it. The shallows. Vast continental shelves stretched out from the granite coasts. Here the water was only a few meters deep. Sunlight could penetrate all the way to the bottom. The water was warm, calm, and bathed in solar energy. These shallow, sunlit turquoise pools became the laboratories of the future. They were the safe harbors where the chemistry of the universe could begin to experiment. The colors change. The Earth's color palette was expanding. It started as orange fire, then black rock, then green ocean. Now, there was the gray and pink of the granite, the white foam of the surf, and the brilliant turquoise of the shallow seas. The planet was becoming a mosaic. It was painting itself in the colors of geology. The slow drift. These granite rafts were not stationary. They were riding on the moving mantle. Plate tectonics had begun. The tiny continents drifted, collided, and merged. They moved at the speed of growing fingernails. It was a slow-motion dance of land masses, assembling and breaking apart over eons. Mountains were pushed up, and rain wore them down. The cycle of erosion began, washing minerals from the granite into the sea, making the ocean salty and rich. The sky lightens. As the land grew, the atmosphere continued to change. The heavy carbon dioxide was slowly being absorbed by the ocean and locked away in the rocks. The sky shifted from a heavy orange haze to a lighter blue-gray. The sun, which had been faint, began to shine a little brighter on the granite peaks. The world was becoming clearer. A planet prepared. We now have a world with all the necessary components. We have a solid crust. We have deep oceans. We have continents floating on the mantle. We have shallow, sunlit seas, rich in chemicals. The stage is perfectly set. The house is built. The furniture is arranged. Now, the earth is waiting for its tenant. Transition. We drift over these quiet, barren granite islands. They are empty. There is no breath here yet. But in the warm, shallow water just off the coast, something is happening. The molecules are organizing. The chemistry is becoming complex. The primordial soup is simmering. In the next chapter, we will witness the greatest miracle of all, the moment the planet wakes up. Here is Chapter 5, The First Breath. Script: The Birth of Earth. Chapter 5, The First Breath. Transition. We are hovering over the shallow turquoise waters surrounding granite islands. The year is 3.5 billion years ago. To our eyes, the world looks empty. There are no trees on the land, no fish in the water, no birds in the sky. The silence is profound. The only sound is the rhythmic lapping of the waves against the bare rock. But if you look closely at the shoreline, you see something strange. Rounded rocky mounds growing in the shallows. They look like stones, but they are growing. They are living statues. The invisible residents. Life has begun. We don't know exactly how it started, perhaps in a lightning strike, perhaps in a deep-sea vent. But it is here. The ocean is teeming with microscopic, single-celled organisms. Bacteria. They are simple, fragile, and invisible to the naked eye. For millions of years, they drifted aimlessly, eating the chemicals of the sea. But then, one type of bacteria figured out how to do something miraculous. It learned to eat sunlight. Stromatolites. These bacteria formed colonies. They glued sand and slime together, layer by layer, building the rocky mounds we saw on the shore. Stromatolites. These are the first cities on Earth. They are not made of steel and glass, but of sticky bacterial mats. They sit in the warm, shallow water, basking in the sun, quietly working. And as they work, they release a waste product. A tiny, invisible bubble of gas floats up from the colony and pops at the surface. Oxygen. The atmosphere before. To understand how important this bubble is, we must look up. The sky is not blue. It is a hazy, heavy orange, thick with methane and carbon dioxide. The air is toxic. If you took a breath here, you would die instantly. The planet is like a greenhouse, hot, humid, and choked with gas. But the invisible army in the ocean is about to change the color of the Yed, the war of the elements. For a long time, the oxygen didn't make it to the air. The ocean was full of dissolved iron. As soon as the oxygen was released, it reacted with the iron. It rusted. Imagine the entire global ocean turning into a vat of rust. The green water turned blood red. Iron oxide rained down to the sea floor, creating vast bands of red rock that we can still find today. It was a chemical war between the new gas and the old metals. The ocean clears, but the bacteria kept working, day after day, millennium after millennium. Eventually, the iron ran out. The rust settled. The oceans, stripped of their heavy metals, changed color again. They turned a brilliant, crystal clear indigo. The water was now pure, holding the oxygen in solution. And then, finally, the gas began to bubble out into the air. The first breath. The oxygen rose. It drifted up into the heavy orange haze. It met the methane. Methane is a powerful greenhouse gas that kept the young Earth warm. But oxygen destroys methane. As the two gases mixed, the methane fell apart. The thick orange smog that had covered the planet for billions of years began to thin. It broke apart. It dissolved. The blue sky. And then the most dramatic visual change in history happened. The haze vanished. The sunlight hit the oxygen and nitrogen molecules and scattered. For the first time, the sky turned a deep, electric azure. The earth opened its eyes. If you were there, standing on a granite cliff, you would have seen the sun shining bright and sharp in a perfect blue dome. The blue marble was finally born. The Great Oxidation Event. Scientists call this the Great Oxidation Event. It sounds peaceful, but it was a catastrophe for the old life. The oxygen was poison to the other bacteria. A mass extinction swept the globe, wiping out the old anaerobic world. But for the future, for us, it was the spark. This high-energy gas would eventually power the complex life forms of the future. The Big Freeze. But there was a consequence. When the bacteria destroyed the methane blanket, they turned off the planet's heater. The Earth, which had been tropical and hot, suddenly lost its warmth. The temperature plummeted. The poles began to freeze. The ice didn't stop at the Arctic. It grew. It marched down toward the equator. The blue ocean turned white. Snowball Earth. The planet entered the Huronian glaciation. The entire globe from pole to pole was encased in a shell of ice, kilometers thick. The Earth looked like a giant white snowball floating in space. The silence returned. The waves stopped. The clouds vanished. The bacteria that started it all were trapped beneath the ice, dormant, waiting. The sleep of the world. For millions of years, the Earth slept. It was a frozen, white wasteland, reflecting the sun's light back into space. It looked dead, but deep down, the heat of the core was still there. The volcanoes were still there. The heart of the planet was still beating, preparing to melt the prison of ice. Transition. We leave the white frozen sphere spinning in the dark. It looks peaceful, like a pearl. The chaos of fire is gone. The chaos of water is locked in ice. But the Chaolan story isn't over. The ice will crack. The life will survive. And when the thaw comes, it will bring an explosion of diversity the universe has never seen. We are looking down at the white frozen silence of Snowball Earth. For millions of years, the ice has held the planet in a suspended dream. It looks static. It looks finished. But the Earth is not dead. It is merely holding its breath. Beneath the kilometers of ice, the heart of the planet is still beating. The volcanoes, buried under the glaciers, continue to erupt. They pump heat and carbon dioxide into the dark space between the ice and the rock. Eventually, the pressure becomes too great. The prison breaks. The great thaw. It starts with a crack that rings around the world. The volcanoes punch through the ice sheets, spewing dark ash and hot gas into the freezing sky. Without liquid rain to wash the carbon dioxide away, the gas builds up in the atmosphere. It wraps the planet in a new, warm blanket. The temperature rises. The ice begins to groan and retreat. Meltwater rushes into the oceans. The white marble transforms back into a blue one, but this time, the ocean is different. It is rich. The glaciers have ground the mountains into dust, filling the water with nutrients. The table is set for a feast. The Garden of Edayakara. Life returned from the deep vents, but it has changed. The single cells have grown tired of being alone. They begin to stick together. They form colonies, then tissues, then bodies. We enter the Edayakaran period. The shallow seas are filled with the strangest creatures Earth has ever seen. They look like quilted mattresses, fronds, and discs lying on the sand. They have no eyes, no mouths, no fins. They do not swim. They simply bask in the light, absorbing nutrients through their skin. It is a time of absolute peace. A Garden of Eden where nothing hunts and nothing hides. Soft, silent shapes drifting in the warm currents. The spark. But nature is restless. Evolution begins to experiment. The calcium in the water is absorbed by the animals. They start to build skeletons. They build armor. They build shells. And then, about 540 million years ago, the biological fuse is lit. The Cambrian explosion begins. In a geological blink of an eye, the oceans go from simple and quiet to crowded and complex. The invention of the eye. Amidst this explosion, a small creature develops a patch of light-sensitive cells. Over generations, it curves into a cup. Then, a lens forms. And then, for the first time in the 13 billion year history of the universe, an image is formed. The first eye opens. The trilobite looks out and sees the world. The universe is no longer just being. It is watching. The blue of the water, the light of the sun. It is finally being witnessed. The alien ocean. If you swam in this Cambrian ocean, you would feel like you were on another planet. Giant sea scorpions paddle through the gloom. Creatures with 5 eyes and nozzle snouts drift by. Sponges in brilliant reds and purples build reef-like cities. It is a carnival of shapes. Life is trying everything at once, testing every design. The ocean is bustling with activity, a silent ballet of swimming, crawling, and burrowing. The armor. Because there are now eyes, there are now predators. Anomalocaris, a strange swimming shrimp giant, patrols the reefs. In response, the prey grows harder shells. It is an arms race, but it is a creative one. It forces life to become smarter, faster, and more complex. The nervous system becomes a superhighway of signals. The brain begins to form. The ozone shield. While life is busy in the water, the sky is changing again. The oxygen pumped out by the plants is rising to the very top of the atmosphere. There, struck by the sun's radiation, it turns into ozone. This thin layer is a shield. It blocks the deadly ultraviolet light that has sterilized the land for billions of years. The continents, barren, rocky, and gray, are finally safe. The forbidden zone of the dry land is opening up. The green fringe. Down at the water's edge, the tides wash algae onto the rocks. Before, they would dry out and die. Now, protected by the ozone and adapted to the air, they survive. A faint green fuzz begins to creep up the shoreline. Mosses, liverworts. The gray granite is being painted green. The plants are leaving the cradle of the sea. They are marching inland, inch by inch, turning the rock into soil, preparing the ground for the forest that will come. The fish. Back in the water, a small, unassuming creature swims in the shadow of the giant invertebrates. It has no shell. It is soft, but it has something new inside. A stiff rod running down its back. A notochord. It is the ancestor of the spine. This tiny swimmer, Pikaia, is the great-grandfather of all fish, all amphibians, all dinosaurs, and eventually, us. We started there, a small, wiggly hope in a sea of monsters. Transition. The ocean is full. The drama of the sea is established. But the vast continents are still mostly empty, waiting in silence under the sun. The green carpet is spreading. The air is ready. The next chapter will take us out of the water. We will learn to walk. We leave the busy, crowded oceans of the Cambrian era. We drift toward the shoreline. For billions of years, the land was a place of silence and gray rock. It was a forbidden zone where the sun was too harsh and the air too dry. But the ozone layer has done its work. The shield is in place. The green moss has established a beachhead on the rocks. Now, the earth is ready to bloom. We are about to witness the greatest landscaping project in history. The planet is turning green. The carpet of moss. It starts low. The first plants are shy. They hug the ground, hiding in the damp shadows of rocks. Mosses, liverworts, and simple ferns. They have no deep roots yet, no strong trunks. They form a soft velvet carpet over the continents. As they die and decay, they mix with the eroded rock dust. They create something the earth has never seen before. Soil. Rich, dark, fertile earth. The smell of the planet changes. The sharp, salty scent of the sea is joined by the deep, musky scent of rain on dry dirt. Petrichor. The rise of the forests. Evolution learns quickly. To get more sunlight, plants need to go up. They develop rigid stems. They develop wood. The competition for the light begins, and the forests rise. We enter the Carboniferous period. The entire world becomes a giant tropical swamp. These are not the trees we know today. They are giant ferns and club mosses growing 40 meters high. Their bark looks like the scales of a snake. They grow thick and fast, creating a canopy so dense it blocks out the sun. The silence of the wood. In these ancient forests, there is a strange problem. Wood is a new invention. Nature hasn't figured out how to decompose it yet. There are no termites, no bacteria that can eat the tough lignin in the trunks. So when giant trees fall, they don't rot. They pile up. Layer upon layer of preserved wood sinks into the swamp mud. These fallen giants will be compressed over millions of years to become the coal seams that power our world today. We are walking on the preserved energy of this ancient sunlight, the oxygen high. Because the trees are pumping out oxygen, but not rotting, which consumes oxygen, the atmosphere becomes hypercharged. The oxygen levels skyrocket to 35%, much higher than today. The air is thick, rich, and heavy. It is a hyperbaric chamber, and this dense air allows for something terrifying and beautiful to happen to the animals. The giants of the air. Insects follow the plants onto land, and in this oxygen-rich air, they grow to impossible sizes. Imagine a dragonfly with the wingspan of a hawk. This is Meganisoptera. It hums through the misty air, a flash of iridescent blue. On the forest floor, Arthropleura, a millipede the size of a car, winds its way through the ferns. It is a land of monsters, but they are peaceful giants, grazing on the endless vegetation. The silence of the land is broken by the first buzzing, the first chirping. The air itself is alive. The fish that walked. Down in the muddy shallows of the swamp, a fish is making a choice. Tiktaalik. It has fins, but inside those fins are bones. A wrist, an elbow, a shoulder. It pushes itself up out of the muck. It takes a gulp of air. It drags its heavy body onto the mud bank. Gravity is crushing. It is hard to move without the water to support it. But the land is full of food. Insects, spiders, worms, and there are no predators here yet. It is a buffet. The transformation. Slowly, over generations, the fins become legs. The swim bladder becomes a lung. The fish become amphibians. They are the tetrapods, the four-legged pioneers. They still have to return to the water to lay their eggs, tied to the ocean like a ship to an anchor. But they are exploring. They are waddling through the giant fern forests, listening to the wind in the leaves. They are our ancestors, taking the first steps on the long road to humanity. The reptiles. Eventually, life breaks the final chain. An egg is developed with a hard shell, a private pond inside a casing. Now animals don't need the water to reproduce. They can go inland. They can cross the deserts. The reptiles appear. They have dry, scaly skin that holds in moisture. They conquer the interior. The continents are no longer just green edges. They are full of life from coast to coast. The crash. But the Earth is a dynamic system. The continents drift together to form one supercontinent, Pangaea. The climate changes. The swamps dry up. The giant forests collapse. The oxygen levels drop. A massive extinction clears the board. But life is stubborn. The ferns die, but the seeds survive. The giant amphibians die, but the small reptiles hide in the burrows. The earth resets, preparing for the next great dynasty, the dinosaurs. But that is a loud story, and tonight we are telling the quiet one, the jewel. If you looked at Earth from space now, it is complete. It has the white polar caps. It has the deep blue oceans. It has the green and brown continents drifting slowly across the surface. It has white clouds swirling in the atmosphere. It is the jewel of the solar system. It is a working spaceship, a self-sustaining biosphere, spinning in the cold vacuum, waiting for the present. The stage is fully set. The fire has cooled. The water has fallen. The air is breathable. The land is living. The planet has spent 4.5 billion years building a paradise. Now, it is just waiting for the final observer. It is waiting for the moment when a creature will look up at the stars and wonder how it all happened. We watch the green world speed up. The timeline begins to blur. We see the great dynasties rise and fall. The dinosaurs, those magnificent giants, thunder across the plains for millions of years. And then, in a single flash of light, they are gone. The earth goes quiet again. It heals. It sleeps under blankets of snow during the ice ages, waking up to bloom in the warm, interglacial springs. The continents drift into their familiar places. The Atlantic opens. The Himalayas rise. The map becomes the one you know. And finally, in the last few seconds of the geological clock, a new figure steps out of the shadows. You, the awakening. For 4.5 billion years, the Earth was a stage without an audience. It was beautiful, but there was no one to name the beauty, no one to call the moon, moon, no one to call the ocean, blue. When humanity arrived, the planet finally opened its eyes in a new way. We are the universe experiencing itself. We are the voice of the rock. When you look at a sunset, it is the earth looking at itself through your eyes. You are the archive. As you lie here tonight, feel the weight of your body on the bed. That weight is gravity. It is the same force that pulled the dust together in the solar nebula. The atoms in your hand were forged in the stars before the earth existed. The iron in your blood is the same iron that sank to the core in the Great Catastrophe. The water in your cells is the melted ice of ancient comets. You are not just living on the earth, you are the earth. You are a walking, breathing library of the planet's history. The stability of the stone. Think about the ground beneath your building, beneath the floor, beneath the foundation. There is soil. Beneath the soil, there is rock. That rock has been there for eons. It has survived asteroid impacts, earthquakes, floods, and ice. It is solid. It is unshakable. You can rest your full weight upon it. The planet is a sturdy cradle, built over billions of years to hold you safe in this moment. The atmosphere is gentle. Take a deep breath, in and out. That air is the gift of the ancient bacteria and the giant forests. It is a mixture perfectly balanced for you. It protects you from the vacuum of space. It shields you from the harsh sun. It holds the warmth of the day during the night. It is a soft, invisible blanket wrapped around the world, keeping the dark at bay. The view from orbit. Imagine floating just above the atmosphere right now, looking down at the night side of Earth. It is no longer dark. It is glowing with a spider web of golden lights. Cities, towns, and roads. These lights are the campfires of humanity huddled together on the rock. It looks peaceful from up here. There are no borders, just land and water, clouds and light. The planet is spinning silently, carrying all of us through the cosmos. The great silence. The work is done. The fire has cooled. The rain has stopped. The tectonic plates are moving so slowly you cannot feel them. The universe has settled into a steady rhythm. The sun rises and sets. The moon waxes and wanes. The seasons turn. You don't have to do anything to keep it going. The earth knows what to do. It has been doing this for 4.5 billion years. You can let go of the controls. Letting go of time. We have traveled through deep time tonight. We have seen eons pass in seconds. But now, we slow time down. We bring it to a halt. There is no past. The magma ocean is gone. There is no future. The continental drift is far away. There is only this breath, this heartbeat, this moment of stillness in the dark. Return to the dark. Let the images of the past fade. The orange lava cools to black. The green forest dissolve into shadow. The blue ocean calms into a mirror. You are back in your room. The darkness is familiar. It is the same darkness that held the earth before it was born. It is a darkness of potential, a darkness of rest, the final rest. The planet is turning you away from the sun towards the infinite quiet of the stars. You are safe on this ancient traveling rock. Gravity is holding you. The atmosphere is breathing for you. The story is finished. Good night. Sleep well, traveler. The earth will carry you until morning. Good night.